Members, it is about time to begin start. We have taken the quorum. Item number 1, confirmation of the minutes of the 19th meeting held on March the 20th. The minutes have been made available to members. I have received no amendments. Can I take them as confirmed? Matters arising. Meeting with the CS. There is nothing in particular to report. Business arising from previous council meetings. Yes, Ms. Emily Lau. The CS said on TV that she will probably submit a report on constitutional development. Was it ever mentioned? No, not really. But in informal sources are either 15th or the 22nd. Chairman, you're really wonderful. Either it is a man or it is a woman. Now, how soon do they have to inform the president? Well, in that case, they will leave it until Tuesday if they want to bring it here on Wednesday. Is that correct? SG. Yes, this is our understanding. Ms. Emily Lau, I hope that SG will notify members as soon as he becomes aware of it. Will there be a statement after the questions? No oral questions next week. Well, what's going to happen in that case? Well, they come straight for the statement. If it is next Wednesday, there will be no oral questions for 2 weeks in a row. So they will get started with the statement if it does happen at all. Mr. James Tin, I hope that the Secretariat will let me know. We may not always be here at 11. If the CS would just stay for 5 minutes, I don't really want to miss that. So when will you notify us? So will you give us 24-hour notice? SG, well, we will notify members as soon as possible. I don't think that it will be over and done with within 5 minutes because there will be follow-up elucidation. All right, any further questions? If not, Ms. Sitho, Chairman, I don't think the CS would just give us a 24-hour notice because this is a matter of grave importance. Members may not be here at 11 o'clock sharp. There is no urgency to the constitutional reform. They don't have to do so so quickly, so urgently. Why can't they give us the notification for 3 days? Well, under the practice, they can notify, give a 24-hour notification. Chairman, this is not national defense. This is nothing sensitive. Well, I'm not sure this is national defense. When we next meet the CS, we can certainly bring this up. SG, please. Chairman, before the meeting is due to start, the government can notify us that there's going to be a statement to be made, but in the light of previous experience, they would give us 1 day's prior notice. And this is the practice that we have been adopting. Ms. Sitho, I hope you will talk to the CS that they shouldn't leave everything to the very last minute. There should be ample notice for members to make a suitable arrangement. Mr. Ronnie Tong. Chairman, if I may add, if the CS were decide to come on Wednesday, there is no way we can express to her members' sentiments. If it is not going to happen on Wednesday, we can remind her when we next meet her that there should be ample notice. It all depends on whether it's going to come on Wednesday. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Chairman, I don't know what the fuss is all about. Nobody said exactly when it's going to happen. Now we are looking at the rules of procedure. The CS can give 24-hour prior notice. Like the Vice Chair, Mr. Ronnie Tong, said, when you next meet the CS, you can reflect to her members' views that there should be a sufficient notice so that we can get ourselves prepared. And Mr. James Tin will be here at 11 o'clock for that event. I don't think we should conjecture when it's going to happen. She told the media then maybe next week, maybe the 22nd, as soon as it is made known to the Council, I hope that you will notify us as soon as possible. Yes, indeed, through the Secretariat. The CS doesn't have to notify me direct. All right, no question. Business arising from previous Council meetings, Legal Service Division report on bill referred to the House Committee in accordance with Rule 54.4. Legal advisor, please. Chairman, thank you. Members, please refer to the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill 2015, paper LS 56. This is to amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance to extend the profits tax exemption for non-resident persons to include transactions in securities of certain private companies incorporated outside Hong Kong, and exempt non-resident persons that are qualifying funds, and exempt special purpose vehicles from payment of profits tax and related matters. According to the administration, the trade has been consulted, and it is welcomed by the trade, and I hope that this will happen as soon as possible. On January the 5th, the FA panel was consulted. Members did not have any particular views, except that there are questions raised on relevant matters. We are scrutinizing the legal details of the bill. Members might wish to set up a Bills Committee. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, Bills Committee. Any member wishing to join? All right, and there will be further circulation. Legal Service Division report on subsidiary legislation gazetted on March the 20th and tabled in Council on March 25th. Legal advisor, please. Chairman, will members please refer to paper LS 54? There are two items on merchant shipping. The first one is merchant shipping Prevention and Control of Pollution Fees Amendment Regulation 2015, and relating to this, merchant shipping control of harmful anti-fouling systems on ships regulation. The first one is to implement the International Convention on the Control of Harmful Anti-Fouling Systems on Ships 2001, and they are applicable to non-Hong Kong ships within Hong Kong waters as well as Hong Kong ships wherever they are. There are a lot of technical details, and the idea is to impose fees and charges on the services provided. The two pieces will go into effect by notice in the Gazette on the 16th of February. The government has consulted the relevant panel. Members urged the administration to get on with the legislation to be in keeping with the international convention and to maintain Hong Kong's international image. Subcommittee. Mr. Kenneth Chen proposes a subcommittee. Who would like to join? There will be further circulation of invitation by the Secretariat. Legal advisor, please. Chairman, the next one is Places of Public Entertainment Exemption Amendment Order 2015. Chairman, this is to exempt the public places of public entertainment under the judiciary from making an application for licenses. Now, the former electrical building is being converted into Court of Final Appeal, and when the CFA is up and running, there will be two exhibition galleries. And under the public entertainment license, a license will have to be obtained. Once the exemption is granted, the judiciary will be exempted from this obligation. And this comes into effect on May the 22nd. Subcommittee? No? Legal advisor, please. Chairman, thank you. There are two remaining rules. The first one is Adoption Amendment Rules 2015 and also Convention Adoption Amendment Rules 2015. They have to do with the fees and charges and they will have to be paid to the Director of Social Welfare in relation to adoption. They are recovering 20% of the total cost. And there will be incremental increase in the fees starting from 2015 through to 2017. Thank you, Chairman. All right, subcommittee? No. Just a reminder that for the three without a subcommittee, the amendment deadline is the 22nd of April. For the two with a subcommittee, the deadline for amendment is 22nd of April, and I will, in my capacity as chairman of the House Committee, move a motion on the 15th of April to extend the deadline to the 13th of May 2015 so that the subcommittee will have sufficient time to get on with its work. Ms. Sit-Ho, Chairman, well, the judiciary will need to seek an exemption of the places of public entertainment licenses, and this is really ridiculous. And they have to abide by this really absurd piece of legislation. And we do have to seek the exemption ourselves. But I'd like to say something on this. I get a feeling that we can still speak without a subcommittee. Is that right? Yes, you can speak. But if the filibustering is still going on, there is no way you will get a chance to speak. So this is just a reminder. And there will be an instrument made available to members. Right, next, the Legal Service Division report on subsidiary legislation, gazetted on March 27th. Legal Advisor. Paper LS 55, please. There are 5 items there. The first one is Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment Number 3 Regulation 2015. Chairman, there are 5 substances that will be incorporated into the scope of control so that when it comes to supply and sale, there will be specific requirements. The commencement date, 27th of March. Subcommittee? No? Moving on, Chairman. Summary Disposal of Complaints Solicitors Amendment Rules 2014 Commencement Notice. The 2nd of July is the commencement date, and this has to do with the RME causes, and this can be dealt with under the summary disposal of complaints or rules without having to have a full disciplinary hearing. Subcommittee? No? Legal Advisor, please. Chairman, the next 2 are under the UN regulation relating to Liberia. All the details are set out in the paper. I won't bore members with minute details. As with usual practice, and members might wish to refer these to the subcommittee for further scrutiny. All right, and we will refer these 2 items to the subcommittee headed up by Ms. Sit-Ho. Just a reminder that for the first 2, they will be submitted to the Council on the 15th of April. The deadline for amendment is the 13th of May. Business for the Council meeting of 15th and 16th of April 2015. It is expected that the Council meeting can end by 8 on the 16th of April. Report number 16/1415 of the House Committee. They include 8 items. The deadline for amendment is the 15th of April. No members indicated any intention to speak. Questions. There are 22 written questions and no bill for first and second reading. Bills, resumption and debate on second reading, Appropriation Bill 2015, under 36(5) of the RRP. Members will be given 15 minutes to speak.
Government motion proposed resolution under 34(2) of the IGCO in relation to the competition turnover regulation to be moved by the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Business for the Council meeting of the 22nd of April 2015. Questions. 22 written questions lined up already. Bills first reading and moving of second reading. No notice has been received yet. Bills resumption of debate on second reading, committee stage and third reading, and that is the Appropriation Bill 2015. Report of the HC on consideration of subsidiary legislation and other instruments. 5 pieces of legislation has been listed. If you want to speak, please notify the Secretariat by 5 p.m. 14th of April. Advance information on business for the Council of 29th of April 2015. Bills first reading and moving of second reading. Inland Revenue Amendment number 2, Bill 2015. Government motions to proposed resolutions under 54A of the IGCO Cap 1 in relation to the establishment of the Innovation and Technology Bureau to be moved by the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Legal Advisor. Thank you, Chairman. On these two proposed resolutions, we have submitted a report, LS 57. Well, members are very familiar with the proposal of establishing an ITB, and because of this we have to give effect the transfer of certain statutory functions. Originally, the government has given notice that on the 18th of March that the resolution submitted in December would be passed, and that the work can be completed within this year. But then as we helped members study or scrutinize the resolution, we found that for the resolution submitted on the 29th of December, because of the Finance Committee's failure to pass the relevant financial proposal, the original resolution, or whether it should still be valid and subsist, well, there are doubts raised on this. The government notes our concerns, and at the subcommittee, and perhaps later on, the chairman of the subcommittee will make a report. At the subcommittee, we have discussed and studied the issue, and ultimately we decided that we formally repeal the original resolution made on the 29th of December. And then we would start afresh with effecting the transfer of statutory functions, and then the effective date will be pegged to the time or the 14th day after the financial proposal has been endorsed by the FC. As what the legal advisor said, the subcommittee will be making a report very soon. Now, for this new resolution, do we need to set up a subcommittee? Mr. Albert Chan. Yes, request for a subcommittee to be set up. Anyone to join? Yes. The government will do further circulation of the invitation. According to established practice, we would be asking the administration to withdraw the resolution so that the subcommittee would have sufficient time to scrutinize the resolution. Reports of Bills Committees and Subcommittees. Reports of the Bills Committee on Arbitration Amendment Bill 2015. 主席，嗰個嘅草案委員會呢已經完成咗審議咗呢一個嘅
which seeks to, amongst others, make it clear that parties opting for domestic arbitration and specifying the number of arbitrators in an arbitration agreement may still retain the right to seek court's assistance for matters set out in sections 2 to 7 of Schedule 2 of the Arbitration Ordinance, and update the arbitration parties to New York Convention order. Details of the deliberations of the Bills Committee are set out in the report issued to members. The Bills Committee notes that the administration will move a committee stage amendment to act State of Palestine in the arbitration parties to New York Convention order. The Bills Committee does not object to the resumption of second reading debate on the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
與成立創新及科技局有關。
Report of the Committee on proposed resolution relating to the establishment of the ITB. Thank you, Chairman. The Bills Committee has held one meeting with the administration. Members note the concerns raised by the SC's legal advisor on the legal effect of the original resolution and the administration's views on this. The details are set out in our report. Members also note that the administration has decided not to deal with the amending resolution, but to introduce a repeal resolution to repeal the original resolution and introduce a new resolution for the transfer of the relevant statutory functions. Some members think that the SC should continue with its work to scrutinize the repeal resolution to repeal the original resolution and the new resolution. A majority of members consider that the subcommittee should, before its dissolution, report its deliberations in writing to the House Committee, given the administration's decision not to proceed further with the amending resolution. They consider that the proper arrangement is to form a new subcommittee under the HC to study the relevant subsidiary legislation when it is introduced into the LegCo. So much for my report. Positions on the Bills Committees and Committees on the 9th of April, 10 Bills Committees are in action. Mr. Dennis Kwok, I would like to talk about the queuing up of the subcommittees. Can I finish first? And also, 7 SCs under HCs are in action, and also 9 subcommittees under the panels are in action, and there are 3 SCs on the policies on waiting list. In table K, there are 3 SCs lining up. The Economic Development Panel has agreed to establish an SC to look into the third runway, but it is not shown in the table. And also, a lot of Hong Kong people are very concerned about the building of the third runway, so there is some urgency to the matter. So I hope that we can deal with it as a matter of priority, and maybe that subcommittee can also be jumping the queue. If we have the consensus on this, I think that will help us in monitoring the proposal or the project on third runway. The House Committee hasn't received correspondence from the Economic Development Panel on this. Perhaps Mr. Jeffrey Lam can supplement. The Economic Development Panel has discussed establishing a subcommittee on the third runway. That would be the composition of that subcommittee would be done within the Economic Development Panel. We haven't proceeded to the stage where we are ready to submit the proposal to the HC. Well, when it reaches us, we'll deal with it. Mr. Dennis Kwok. Mr. Jeffrey Lam can further clarify this. I believe that when we moved the motion, we said that we should be establishing a set SC within the Council. I don't know whether my interpretation is different. The chairman believes that it should be set up under the panel, but my view is that it should be established under the HC instead. So I am easy one way or another, but I would like to seek clarification in any case. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, at the Economic Development Panel, we did discuss this. So the proposal still stays within the panel for the moment. And our inclination is that SC would be set up under the Economic Development Panel. And the Secretariat is dealing with it now. Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, I understand that the Economic Development Panel and also the pro-establishment camp members would like to confine the third runway to the arena of the Hong Kong's economy. But if we look at the project, it should come under the portfolio of the Transport and Housing Bureau. And one of the major issues of a third runway is environmental impact. And at the EA panel, we did discuss that, and we held an open hearing, and many deputations also shared views on the economic implications. But if we are just limiting the discussion to within the economic development panel, I'm afraid that the discussions will be very biased. Should we be setting up a joint subcommittee, EA panel, a transport panel, and also economic development panel? Or the other way to do it is to set up under the HC, because the proposal has implications on all sphere of life in Hong Kong. If we just do it within the economic development panel, then we are not giving due regard to the other aspects of the project. 2 points that I would like the Permanent Secretary to clarify. The project has been discussed at the EDP, and the SC is now on the queue. And what the established practice is that only after a subcommittee has finished its work will a slot be vacated for other SCs. So this is something that we have to consider. I also agree with members that third runway has to do not only with economic development, loans will have to be taken out, and the environmental impact is involved. So if members agree, should we be setting up this SC under HC so that all members, even those outside the EDP, can join that subcommittee? And that would also enrich our discussion. Before handover, we talked about the Rose Garden projects. We attached a lot of importance to it, and we discussed aspects not only at the economic arena, but also some other aspects. So should we be adopting a more open approach? Should we be establishing a subcommittee under HC? For establishing subcommittees, the usual way to do it is for the panel to discuss it first, and then we will deal with it at the HC. Now, for the moment, I haven't received any letters from any members or panels to have the subcommittee set up. And members, you can discuss among yourselves within the various panels and see how we should take things forward. And before I receive any letter from you, then I will not be dealing with it. And I think it's a matter for everyone to discuss and decide. At the panel meeting, we discussed that how come that it hasn't reached the HC. And also, at the HCC, we have to look at whether priority should be given to certain SC on the list or on the queue. Should we be making a decision on that now? We'll look at how or through what procedures should we be establishing this subcommittee. But for the moment, I haven't received anything yet. Mr. Dennis Kwok asked a question, so I let him ask it, and I'm just making a clarification now. Oh, there's no way that I can deal with it now because I haven't received anything at all. It's not an agenda item yet. So members, please discuss the subject at various panels first. I know that the ADP has discussed it Well, then after that, the Secretariat has to deal with it. There must be a work plan. There are certain procedures to go through. At this moment, I haven't received anything yet. 3 other members have pressed the button to speak. Can the Secretary General respond?
All right, there are 3 more members, 1 minute each. And this is not an agenda item, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan. Chairman, well, you said there is nothing in front of you to handle, but I think a subcommittee should be formed under the House. We're going to be writing next week to the House Committee suggesting that this be formed under the House. The third runway has to do with the ENB, the THB, and also economic development. So it should be formed under the House Committee. Also, when a committee is formed, I hope that this will be given top priority. Well, I leave this to the Secretariat to address. We would request urgent treatment, and I think that we will have to wait until the last committee or the committee is formally finished before we can get on with the third runway. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, well, I echo what Mr. Lee said, because this will have profound implications. We're going to get rid of the third runway once it is built. It is a path of no return. If it is done under the Economic Development Panel, is not appropriate. Mr. James Dean, Chairman, the Liberal Party is supportive of the third runway in terms of financial arrangement. Now, the dividends will be waived to the tune of billions of dollars per year. I hope that a committee should be formed as soon as possible. The fastest way is to have it under the ED panel, and we can invite members to attend. If we are going to form one under the House, there is a backlog there. We're not sure how soon we're going to get this up and running. So wouldn't it be the fastest way to set it up under the Economic Development Panel? We can certainly invite all the relevant parties to attend. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, Chairman. We did have a wide variety of views. Some members are only concerned about the economics. In fact, there are concerns about environment. It's not a question of an issue of only concern to the pro-establishment members. So what we have to do is to decide on the terms of reference of the subcommittee. Other than the economic dimension, we have to look at the environmental dimension, all the rest of it. All these will have to be taken into account. The subcommittee will not be confined to members of the EDP. The Secretariat has been getting on with it post-haste, and I leave everything else to the Secretariat. SG, Chairman, you and the Chairman of the EDP, Mr. Jeffrey Lam, already said that under the EDP, a motion has been carried to set up a subcommittee. As per usual practice, members will have to work out terms of reference and a work plan before submitting the details to the House for discussion. As to the prioritization, members can take the decision here at this House committee, and this is the latest state of play. Okay then. We'll await the submission of an agenda item here for discussion. Next item, proposal of Honourable Claudia Mo to ask an urgent oral question under Rule 24.4 of the ROP at the Council meeting on April the 15th on issues relating to change of shareholding in and license renewal of ATV. Ms. Claudia Mo, 2 minutes, please. Chairman, thank you. In Hong Kong, it is really important thing to watch television. That the event about ATV has been very explosive. I understand that the panel will discuss this matter, but basically there will be questions put to the Communications Authority, and there will be other issues involved, like whether false information has been released affecting the share prices, whether the press freedom has been undermined. This has to do with the CMAB, and also the RTHA is going to take over. The civil service structure will be dealt a blow. RTHK is getting $800 million instead of $500 million. RTHK is going to take over the ATV spectrum. It doesn't even have any transmission station. If we're given only 3 minutes at the panel, I don't think we will be able to get anywhere at all. On Wednesday, we don't have the normal oral questions. Now, given the urgency of the matter, I hope the members will support my proposal. I don't really want to waste any more of members' time. Mr. Ip Kok Him, Chairman, the DAB did discuss this, and the members of the public are rightly concerned about what happens with ATV. Now here the proposal is to put an urgent question. We do have reservation about it. If we want to express our views through this channel, it may not be appropriate. As Ms. Claudia Mo said already, the ITBP is going to have a meeting on Monday, and I think it is a more appropriate forum for discussion to be held. If you put urgent questions, it's not the kind of interaction that we want. If it would be enough for the issue to be followed up by the panel. Mr. Dennis Kwok, Chairman, I see the need for the urgent question. Now, there is a question whether someone has released false information through the public broadcaster, and as a result, the share of a counter has shot up by 25% overnight, and there are all manner of issues that have arisen out of that. And Mr. Ip Kok Him said this is of concern to the members of the public. I think we should, in the first instance, seek a reply or response from administration. So I support this urgent question. Any further questions? Any comments? Paul, Chairman, thank you. Chairman, this is dear to our heart. Now, 24.4 is about urgency. Ms. Claudia Mo already explained how urgent it is. Now, the question is whether the government is aware of this prior to the event, and also why taking a decision now, because the CA has already notified the administration on the 1st of ahead of time, and in April next year the ATV will be surrendering the license. But we're talking about 1st of April next year. How urgent is it? I think once again they are trying to avoid observing the rules of procedure. I don't think I can support it. Mr. James Tin. Well, Claudia is talking about the change of shareholding and the ATV's license. The Executive Council has pulled the plug on ATV, and I don't think nobody would be taking over the shares. Now we need to investigate this, but does it warrant an urgent question? I don't think so, because we may be able to go into further detail at a panel meeting. Now an urgent question would last for about 30 minutes, and we may end up with 7 or 8 members putting questions to the exclusion of so many members. I think we should have it dealt with under the panel, or we can certainly move a motion debate to look into the shareholdings and why is it that it took the Executive Council so many months since November last year to take the decision. I think it is far better for this to be discussed at the panel instead of an urgent question. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, Chairman. Well, the government has already taken away the license from ATV. It's a question of how soon the funeral is going to take place on the part of ATV. The change of shareholding, will this cause any turbulence in the market? I'm sure that the SFC will investigate. The official will certainly go round and round in circle when addressing an urgent question. I don't see the urgency with regard to this proposal. And I think we can assuage Ms. Claudia Mo's concerns through other means. Like we can urge the administration to explain in sufficient detail how they're going to deal with the situation, when RTHK will be sufficiently capable of handling the job, or whether there will be no more so-called black box operation, is far better than having an urgent question. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, well, this is out of the ordinary, Chairman. Well, the administration will not tell you anything, and by saying that they're not commenting on individual cases. And it is unusual for Greg So to cancel the license like that. And maybe someone is making untruthful remarks. And I think it is really something out of the ordinary here. I think Mr. Lam Tai Fai is wrong. It's not a question of waiting for the funeral. They're gonna meet with a demise anytime, and they will ask RTHK to take over from ATV, and there may not be any news bulletin for a while, and they may not produce any news bulletins. I do think that there is some great deal of urgency, and you're shooting off your mouth. If ATV were to decide to close down, or someone might continue even without the license, and we will end up with only ATV if we want to follow the news, and they have someone from DAB to be in charge of the news, and this is something very urgent, and ATV might die a sudden death. And that's really something that's going to happen. And it is something important. Mr. Alan Leung, Chairman. ATV is likely to close down any time, and this is not speculation. Mr. Lau Lam Cheong, the Vice President of ATV, said in an interview that in absence of any new funding, ATV is going to close down at any time, and TVB will be dominating the airwaves without any competition. And if we want free-to-air television, then the viewers will only have HKTV to choose from other than TVB, and this is a matter of urgency. RTHK has been named. The ATV spectrum will be taken over by RTHK. We heard some senior people from RTHK that they are only given a job when they are needed, but they will be called shorted if they're not of any use.
In any case, RTHK said that they may not be capable of taking over the spectrum. So if you don't call that urgent, what is urgent matters then? Mr. Lau said that the ATV will close down any time. It may be 2 weeks later, 20 days later. If we don't ask an urgent oral question compelling the relevant government officials to answer questions by us, I don't think we should adopt that attitude that provided that, well, since the government officials can't answer our question, they should not be called in. I agree with Ms. Moses' suggestion of raising this oral question. ATV's license has not been renewed, and the government has dealt with it in a very unsightly manner, and it is of great concern to the entire Hong Kong community. The pro-establishment camp members have been doing what they are doing over this matter. They are not doing anything, as usual. Well, there is urgency to every point raised by Ms. Claudia Mo, especially point 3, because ATV can close down any time. What about the interest of the employees? Are they well safeguarded? And can RTHK take over the channels? So all these issues are very pressing. Mr. James Tian gave an answer himself in his reply. He said that Claudia Mo can move a motion debate, but then that she will have to wait for a long time to do that. And the CEDB has been procrastinating over the matter, has not taken proper action to deal with the matter. So that's why we think there is a need to raise an urgent oral question. The DB or the pro-establishment camp members are against every suggestion that we raise. You are depriving the right of Hong Kong people to free TV. Hong Kong people visit overseas places frequently. They know well that there are a plethora of channels provided by overseas jurisdictions. So how come that Hong Kong is facing the situation that we are facing today? Well, you are liable to. You should not be depriving the Hong Kong people's right to receive free TV service. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, it's not your time to speak. Mr. Raymond Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Starry Lee sounded very upright as an EXCO member, and you played a part in not renewing the ATV's license. I don't think there is a need for us to debate on whether there is urgency in the matter. What's the problem with raising an urgent oral question? Is it a waste of the time of the administration? In fact, the administration is obliged to come up to tell us what follow-up measures they are going to take. If ATV closes down anytime, then we are left with just one TV station, and you are giving a license to another not so good TV station. How are you going to distribute the spectrum? Can RTHK shoulder the responsibility bestowed on it? I asked the ITB panel to convene a special meeting, but, well, that suggestion was declined, and it now becomes one of the agenda items in the meeting next Monday, and the discussion can last a maximum of 1 hour. So why can't we ask this urgent oral question? If they don't give us good answers, then ask them to go to hell. You said that you will open up for competition. There will be 4 free-to-air television channels and then 2 pay channels. Well, compared to Taiwan, well, we are being outsmarted by Taiwan. And also for the wireless TV and also the cable TV, they are put on the same platform. And there is a wide variety of choices for people, and the stations compete on advertisement revenue. And in the foreseeable future, it's very likely that we are left with just only one TV station. So how come that we are not even allowed to discuss the matter? Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan, the Labour Party supports the proposal for an urgent oral question. As we all know, well, we should not be talking about a funeral or a time-limited service and so on. Well, we are trying the ATV might pluck this life-sustaining tube from itself at any time. And if it closes down, then we have all sorts of follow-up actions to take. If I ask you the question, what follow-up action will be taken? No, we don't have a clue. Now, if there is just only one TV station, what choices, TV choices, are Hong Kong people left with? Hong Kong families don't have genuine choice. It's just like universal suffrage. We just have fake universal suffrage, no genuine universal suffrage. Same for TV, just one TV station left. So this is a matter of great urgency, and it's unreasonable for us to say that no urgency at all. We can try to hold people accountable later. We are not talking about accountability here. We are talking about urgent contingency measures to be taken. Well, they will be dying any time, and then we are just left with one TV station. Can RTHK really be provide a good enough substitute or alternative? RTHK doesn't have the resources to do that. So I think the entire government is in a mess. And the EXCO, when it made decision, it hasn't given comprehensive thoughts on the follow-up measures. We are not against the EXCO's decision. ATV has a long-standing problem of wage default, and it should have closed down a long time ago. But then the follow-up measures should be thought about well before now. I support Ms. Claudia Mo's proposal. Even if the chairman gives everyone the chance to ask a question, the government officials' reply may not satisfy us. But in any case, we should resort to all measures to put pressure on GRACSO and the government. The ATV problem surfaced well before the license renewal issue. Earlier on, I asked the government. I told the government that ATV may wind down or wind up very soon because they don't have the means to sustain the operation. And I asked the question, will the license be given over to RTHK? Now, the permanent secretary was Susie Ho, and she said that they haven't thought about it. Well, perhaps it's my idea that the license be given over to RTHK. Well, I said that ATV will close down any time. Well, the earlier it closes down, the more money it can save, and it's do good for the employees as well, because you can pay these employees' salaries. So the urgent question is for the CEDB, and we would like to ask whether the CEDB has a dereliction of duty. Has the CEDB got Plan A, Plan B, and so on? And they said that RTHK can run a service up to 2020. Is it an idea all of a sudden, which popped up all of a sudden, or was it mooted a long time ago? Can they run, say, till the time when another TV station is ready to take up the service? We're talking about 2020. That ties in with the ending of the analog TV system in Guangdong. But what happens if the analog TV in Guangdong doesn't end that time? Ms. Emily Lau. Well, it's a very problematic if we are reducing or cutting the number of free-to-air stations from 2 to 1. Well, perhaps we should have or move an urgent motion debate instead of asking an urgent oral question. Perhaps, Chairman, you can, on behalf of the House Committee, try to ask for a time slot for the motion debate. I believe that many Hong Kong people would like to know or to get to the bottom of the matter. We are worse off than North Korea. Hong Kong is a big city. How can that be? Some members asked that the question time may last, say, a dozen or so minutes, and we would not be happy with the answer. And some members have rightly pointed out that we should instead have an urgent motion debate. And Chairman, you can ask for that on behalf of the HC. We must express our views and ask questions. We don't know how it will develop, and things can change quickly. Should we just be sitting here with our arms folded doing nothing? There is a meeting next Monday, but then the agenda item will last at most for 1 hour. And I think we should ask the government officials to come and explain the situation. If we don't do anything, then, well, it's problematic, and we will end up being in the headlines of international news media. So, Chairman, please, on behalf of us, ask for a time slot to have an urgent motion debate on the issue. Mr. Wong Kwok Kin. Chairman, we have 2 TV stations in name, but in effect, do we really have 2 TV stations? People say that there is urgency to the matter. Well, if that is so urgent, we just do it on Monday. Why wait till Wednesday? I don't see the questions raised on Monday would differ from those raised on Wednesday. And Greg Soul will be the person who will be answering the questions. It is him. Well, then, in that case, I will support Mr. James Tan's suggestion of having a motion debate instead of an oral urgent question. We will not try to gain political mileage out of this. The FTU will not do that. Mr. Tam Yu Chung, we are talking about whether we should have an urgent oral question, and the decision lies with the President of the Council. Gary Fan just now was using the opportunity to attack other people. This is meaningless. Well, you can ask all your questions on Monday. You said 1 hour is not enough, and then you said 20 minutes are adequate. What kind of rationale is that? Because an oral question can last only up to 20 minutes. Well, isn't Mr. Tam Yu Chung's turn to speak? Mr. Lam Kwok Hong. Mr. Lam Kwok Hong. So we think that we should not discuss this anymore. I think all the views have been expressed, and then we will leave it up to the President to make a decision. Mr. Albert Chen. Mr. Tam, well, considered a veteran, a veterans councillor, but he's raising all these very superficial views or suggestions. So, urgent question. Every member is given the opportunity to ask questions. Last time, you asked questions on point of order, when will we break for lunch, and so on. You yourself raised repeated questions all the time yourselves too. So this is how the senior members of the DAB behave. They're not even willing to do the homework. This is an insult to the leftist parties or groups in Hong Kong. Jasper Zhang should feel ashamed of you. He's been asking his peers or colleagues to speak less. So you should be ashamed of yourself. Yip Kwok Kim is better in a way. He is more pragmatic. He is not like Tam Yu Chung, who speaks all kinds of nonsense. Coming back to Ms. Mo's proposal, we all know that that not much impact will be created after raising this oral question, but I think it is incumbent on the electoral members to show concern to major livelihood issues. We should share the concern of the Hong Kong public in Hong Kong. We should do it. Questions on housing. I've been asking questions on that all the time. And I've been criticizing time and again the link rate being listed, and these are all livelihood issues that we should pay heed to. You get your salary month after month.
Ms. Claudia Mo, 1 minute to sum up. We all expected what the poor establishment members have to say. They come well prepared, but I am disappointed with Mr. Lam Tai Fai and Mr. James Tee, and I would have thought that they would be more liberal. You're saying that there's nothing urgent. You have to queue up, and you come back next in October. Chairman, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen talked about shutting down the life support machine. I think it's all a question of pulling the plug. I mean, if the plug is pulled, what's going to happen to the staff? What about the equipment, the facilities? Nothing is good enough. How can anybody take over? And they will only be able to survive until August, from what I was told. I claim a division. Ms. Claudia Mo claims the division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes.
請同事而家投票係
All right, members, we are voting on Ms. Claudia Mo's proposal to put an urgent question on April the 15th regarding the issue of change of shareholding in the and license renewal of ATV. This is an urgent question proposed by Ms. Claudia Mo.
投票開始。
All right, will members please proceed to vote.
請各位
Please check your votes. Voting now ends. Clerk, please. 50 present, 24, 29 against. The proposal has been voted down. I've got nothing. Gazetted AOB meeting adjourned.